Imagine trying to hold on to a heavy iron pan of hot oil when your hands simply refuse to stay still. Every scoop is a risk, and today, that shaking hand finally gives out, spilling hot food onto the polished leather shoe of a wealthy customer. The reaction is explosive. The customer doesn't see a fragile old man making a mistake, he sees a filthy street vendor ruining his expensive clothes. The insults are loud and public, weaponizing the massive gap in wealth between them. The old man offers zero resistance. He simply folds his hands, dropping to the pavement to plead for forgiveness. He is desperate, terrified of losing the tiny patch of sidewalk he relies on to survive. Let's freeze this moment. In a society that seemingly only respects money and power, who steps up for the completely vulnerable? To understand why this injustice is so deeply heartbreaking, we have to rewind the clock to a time when this broken man was the one doing the protecting. Decades earlier, the scene outside the historic Eastern Punjab railway junction in Delhi was teeming with life. Thousands of travelers poured through the gates, surrounded by a chaotic ecosystem of rickshaws, porters, and street vendors. Among them was Ram Lal. He was younger then, energetic, spending his days frying hot, crispy kachoris. He had a habit that cost him money but fed his soul. He regularly gave away plates of his food to a hungry street kid named Bablu, waving away the boy's empty promises to pay him back. Then tragedy hits. Bablu's mother falls ill, and she doesn't die from some rare, incurable disease. She dies from a treatable illness, simply because the sprawling, makeshift slums they live in lack access to the most basic medicine. With the boy now entirely alone, Ramlal and his wife Gomti make an immediate decision. They bring the weeping orphan into their own tiny mud hut. They tell him this is his home now, effectively making him their son. It is a beautiful, selfless act. However, it creates a harsh reality. Ramlal has built a loving family, yet without any actual financial resources, they are all firmly locked into a cycle of generational poverty. There is no obvious way out. Fast forward a few years, and Bablu is working side by side with his adopted father. Instead of holding textbooks and learning to read, the young boy spends his childhood folding old newspapers into packets and fetching water for customers. This routine is interrupted by a customer named Shalini. She sees the young boy working the street cart and challenges Ramlal. She points out that leaning on a child's labor to keep the food stall running is a dead end for the boy's future. She introduces a hard truth about social mobility. Working longer hours at a street cart will never move this family into a different social class. Only formal education can break the cycle of manual labor. Shalini works with an organization that helps kids get free schooling. She writes her phone number on a scrap of paper and hands it to Bablu. This single contact represents the only path to a classroom he's ever been offered. That small piece of paper becomes an immense burden for the boy. He realizes that to save the two people who rescued him from the streets, he must break their hearts by leaving them to study. Late that night, while his aging parents sleep, Bablu makes his choice. He grabs the few coins in his pocket and quietly slips out of the hut, choosing the difficult path of ambition over the comfort of staying with his family. Morning arrives, bringing sheer panic. Ramlal and Gomti scour the streets, asking every vendor and searching every alley. Slowly, the crushing realization sets in. Their boy is entirely gone. This chart visualizes the years that follow. Over a decade passes. This dropping line shows Ramlal's capacity and income decaying in tandem, his back bending and hand shaking. Yet notice this second line. Their hope remains perfectly flat, pinned at 100%. Poverty erodes the body through hunger, but for Ramlal and Gomti, the silence is far more destructive. They spend every waking hour waiting for a child who appears to have forgotten they even exist. This brings us back to the present day. Ramlal is back on the pavement, hands folded, enduring the vicious abuse of the wealthy customer whose shoe he accidentally stained. Before the rich man can escalate the situation, someone steps between them. A younger man firmly inserts himself in front of Ramlal, acting as a physical shield against the wealthy customer. The young man doesn't yell,
He simply pulls out a government ID card and shows it to the aggressor. The effect is immediate. The wealthy man's arrogance completely evaporates, replaced by frantic apologies as he backs away. With the threat gone, the young officer turns around. He bends down and gently touches the old man's feet in a traditional sign of deep respect. Ramlal looks up and sees him. It's Bablu. Bablu used that piece of paper to find his way to a classroom. Through years of study, he became a high-ranking officer, and he has returned to the very same railway station to take his parents home forever. The Kachoris Ramlal shared decades ago were a gamble on a child's life. Today, that investment has grown into a man of character, proving that a single act of generosity can eventually become the very thing that saves you.